It's amazing the things you can accomplish when you truly believe that not only are you capable of accomplishing them, but you deserve to. One of the challenges I find, especially with the people that I'm coaching and even with myself, is the challenge of understanding that the future that lies in front of you, you have just as much right to that as you had to your past. I mean, think for a moment about the things that have happened in your past, especially the ones that you wouldn't have preferred, the ones you didn't choose, the failed business, the failed marriage, the failed relationships, the quitting on your dreams and goals when you dropped out of college to take a full-time job, all those reroutes and redirections and misdirections. All those things that send you down a path that there's no way you would have chosen this in a million years, but here you are. Right now you find yourself in a place where the way you perceive those incidences in your life can completely shape your future. And most of those things, especially the negative ones, you didn't quote unquote deserve. Now, some of them you have to genuinely admit you brought that on yourself. If you have a DUI conviction, if you are spending time in prison because you've made bad decisions, those you kind of brought on yourself. Not to say that it was entirely your choosing to follow that path, but you didn't not choose. I was recently reading some stuff by Beckwith. Harry Beckwith, I believe is his first name. He talks about in the Selling the Invisible, he says, that most people don't make the best choice every time. They make the choice with the good enough label, meaning there are probably things I would have chosen otherwise, but I didn't want to take the risk. I didn't want to run the chances that although this would have been the best turnout, it would have taken more effort. It would have cost more money. It would have taken more time. It would have maybe brought more ostracization on me. More people would have looked at me and mocked me if I tried to go that way. The end result would have been much better. But yeah, I wasn't really ready to take the risk. And so, whether it's buying the second-rate car, buying the it'll work house, or taking the it'll be okay relationship, or you follow me? But again, it goes back to perception. Do we perceive ourselves as worthy of the very best? Do we perceive the opportunity as something worth paying the price for? Are we willing to fight hard enough to get the next thing, to do the due diligence, to do the hard stuff, the small details, and the daily grind? Are we willing to do that to have the very best? Do we look at our dreams and say, I want to, like we talked about yesterday, I want to revive those possibilities. I want to bring them back to the surface. I want to acknowledge what they are. I want to appropriate them. I want to bring them into my life by doing something about them. I want to act on the opportunity to pursue that possibility. See, if all of those things are true and real in your life, if you're moving on those things, it requires action of you. It requires dedicated, diligent action from you, but the action will not go contrary to your perception. As John Maxwell says, and others have said, you cannot become something you do not believe you are. Think about that for a moment. If you find yourself in that place where you're saying, I want to be a doctor, 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 but all the while you're not believing yourself capable, smart enough, with the right bedside manner, with enough funding to get through your education, with the tenacity to deal with people who are screaming in pain and dripping with blood. If all of those things surround your current perception of life, the dream of being a doctor is going to be really, really hard. In fact, if you don't believe that it's possible, it won't be. Perception is powerful. And here's one of the things that we miss. Sometimes it's not just our perception, it's how others perceive us. If we allow others to see us as a certain type of person, a certain going to become type of person, then we might find ourselves in the place where everyone else's pigeonholed understanding of us prevents us from being something else. I can give you an example of that perception in my own life where others have perceived me in different categories and then later understood that there was more to it than meets the eye. An example might be there's an organization of women who gather, I believe it's once a quarter, and I've known one of the local presidents for a long time. And as we've worked together in various roles, she's utilized me in various roles, usually on the side of audiovisual. So I've run cameras for her, I've set up lights for her, I've done microphones and sound systems for her, and that's the capacity in which she's asked me to serve her for the last 4 or 5 years. As a result of that, most of the women in the arena that come to these gatherings, that come to these meetings that she sometimes leads, sometimes hosts, sometimes someone else does, they see me in the light of being an audiovisual guy, that I run cameras, I run lights, and I run sound. In fact, there are probably a dozen or so performers, nationally known recording artists, some of them, who have come and sang at this event for women that only have seen me on that side of the microphone. They've only seen me adjusting their sound, adjusting their music track, adjusting their tone, adding the reverb. That's who they know me as. Well, one of those ladies, actually a couple of them, have seen me now outside of that environment. They've seen me on the platform speaking and teaching. And at least a few of them now, probably 4 or 5, who, I won't give you their names, but if I said their names, there's a really high probability you would know their names, have said to me, "You are one of the best presenters I've ever seen in my life. I didn't know you could take the microphone and do that. I always knew you as behind the camera. I always knew you as the guy running the sound, not speaking through it." And so that perception of me changed. There's a little organization that I work for that sends me to other countries to speak and teach on leadership, on attitude. And we work with the highest level people. You've heard me talk about USALGA in the past. Now, we're not a giant group. There's only about a dozen of us on the state side. There are a few that we work with on the Congolese side, but there's a community of about 10,000 here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, about 10,000 Congolese. And as we worked recently with their parliament attaché that came here, one of the guys that came to the meeting was the president of the local DFW Congolese community. And when he walked into the room and saw my name badge and he realized I was one of the presenters with USAGA who would be talking to the leaders, his perception of me on first meeting was I was a presenter. And then I started pulling out my camera equipment and my digital audio equipment to record the event, and he said, "Wait, I thought you were one of the speakers." "I am one of the speakers." "Well, why do you have all this high-end equipment as well?" "Well, because I also own a DJ business." But see, I don't perceive those as conflicting because I realize that I use that equipment for things like this, like the program that you're watching right now. And so for me, it's a matter of saying, I own this equipment because it improves my opportunities. It enhances my reach. And that's really why I have it. But yes, I do farm myself out from time to time to help others grow their business, to grow their video, to grow their audio, to grow their product set. And I have no problem with that. The problem is when the perception is that I'm one or the other. I've also been a DJ and wedding MC for 12 years now. And so I have a lot of events under my belt. So when I show up and they're like, "Wow, you're really good on the microphone," it's almost like they're shocked. Well, I am a professional public speaker. That's my primary job. We still own the DJ company. My son DJs events. I DJ events. We help other DJs with their events. And those are just kind of fun, on the side kind of jobs. But I've DJ'd over 500 events in the last 12 years. So I know a thing or two about weddings and birthday parties and timelines and how to keep the crowd's energy up and how not to offend people in the crowd. And I get that. But perception says you're either a DJ or an AV guy or an MC or a speaker and trainer. But do you do coaching as well? Yes, I do coaching as well, and I do mentoring as well, and I do one-on-one stuff, and I do workshops, and I do keynote speeches, and I address the Parliament of the Congo, and yes, and I speak in churches, and yes. But see, our perceptions, especially in America, is that you've got to have a niche so tight, so narrow, so I can only do this in order to get noticed, that you really can't play on all of your gifts and talents. And over the last 12 or so years, I've been very aggressive at serving people wherever they need me. If they need me to pick up the trash, I pick up the trash. If they need me to MC a 5K run, I MC a 5K run. If they need me to lead leaders from another government on another part of the world, that's what I do. If they just come to me and say, pray for me, that's what I do. So what I do creates a perception problem. And part of branding is being known for. You've heard me say that 1,000 times. Branding is not your color, it's not your logos, it's not your slogans, it's not your taglines. It's what people say about you after you walk out of the room. What I'd like people to say about me when I walk out of the room is, whatever you need, he will do it if there's any way possible that he can. That's what I want people to say about me. Generally, that's not going to be tree trimming. My hands are all busted up from tree trimming for the last 2 days in my own yard. I'm not so good at that, and I really don't like it. I will help you if that's what you need from me, but I am not that good at it. There are professionals. In fact, Anthony is probably a much better tree trimmer than I am. If you need a good tree trimmer, call me. I'll connect you with Anthony, and I'll let him take care of you. But he does a pretty good job, and he's pretty cheap, and he's very fast. And I took 9 hours. That's not the way you want it done. Trust me, it's not. But let me ask you some questions. These are some of the coaching questions that I use in interacting with my coaching clients. So I'm just going to give you 4 or 5 of them. I'm going to encourage you to write them down because I'm not going to. In fact, after this video, if you don't write these down and you want them, my rate is $275 an hour as a coach. That's what I charge. Yes, you can buy package deals for months at a time. Yes, you can get into group coaching where I'm coaching a larger group of people at one time. We're about to launch one at the first of the year, by the way, for teen fathers and young fathers. And that will be specifically for young men who are raising children that are very young and they're trying to find their way in this. And so if you know a teen father and they need a mentor, it will only be $97 a month. We'll meet 2 or 3 times a month. It will be about training them and raising them up to be men of God and men who are great fathers, who are living out their dreams and still being responsible fathers. That's going to be a tough road to hoe. But if you know a teen father, or if you are a teen father, or even if you're in your early 20s, but you're going, I've never had any fathering advice, I want you to come and be a part of this. It'll be $97 a month. You will pay every month whether you show up or not, or you'll be out of the group. But you're not going to get coaching any cheaper than that. I'm not kidding when I say I charge $275 an hour for coaching. If you want these questions after this video, I'm trying to give you enough time to get a pencil and paper together in case you hadn't caught on to that. If you want these questions after this video, you're going to have to pay for coaching to get them. All right, here we go. Write these down, I'm telling you. What do your perceptions inspire? Now, right now, what I'm talking about is your perception of yourself. How do you see the world? How do you see things around you? Do you feel like you've always been a victim? Your perceptions. What do your perceptions inspire? Here's your first major question. Do they lead to sound conceptions of your life and your world? Do they lead to sound conceptions of your life and your world? And I'll tell you straight up front, that particular question is a paraphrase. It may even be almost exact because it's a very similar way that I use it to the way that Dr. Mark Sharona uses it. And so that question may be exactly what's in his book. It's really, really close. Do they produce goal-affirming actions that support your stated intentions? Do your perceptions produce goal-affirming actions that support your stated intentions? Or are they contradicting your purpose and fighting your dream at every turn? Do your perceptions of the world support your stated goals and intentions? I plan to be a doctor. Great. Have you been doing the things necessary to become a doctor? In my book, Live a More Excellent Life, I talk about that in depth. We really dig into the examples of how easily your dream or your goals, your ambitions in life, and your daily habits can be just a little bit off kilter. Saving up for a bicycle is one of the illustrations in there. Becoming a boxer is another illustration in the book, Live a More Excellent Life. And it really does walk you into that process of asking the question, are the things that I'm doing every day, are the perceptions of myself and my behaviors, are they counterintuitive and contradictory to my goals, or are they supporting my goals? Are they fighting your dream at every turn? All right, next question. Are you developing your skill set? Developing. Are you adding to it? Are you improving? Are you making it better? Your skill set, or just maintaining it? When you look at the skills necessary to live out your dreams, to reach your destiny, to revive all the possibilities, the necessary abilities, education, understanding to achieve at that level, are you working to grow those things, or are you just maintaining them so that you don't lose any ground? Are your goals and habits aligned with expectations and culture of the organization that you want to fit into? Do you feel like what you're striving to accomplish, an NBA player, a doctor, a physician, a public speaker, whatever it is, do you feel like the goals and ambitions that you have and the expectation that the organization has line up? You see, it's real easy to say, I'm going to play in the NBA. Nick Vujicic, for an example, might never play in the NBA. Not because he doesn't have the drive, not because he doesn't have the passion, but because there are a couple of things required to play in the NBA that Nick doesn't have. He doesn't have height. He doesn't have the ability to throw a ball. So whether it's throwing it to a teammate or throwing it through a hoop, that might be really hard for Nick. He's a very accomplished young man regardless, and he has been a world changer. But if his ambition had been to be in the NBA, there would be a big gap between his perception of himself and his perception of the world. Let me put that same statement into one other place. I have been a vocalist since I was in middle school. In middle school, 6th grade, I started singing and performing choir. By the time I was in high school, I was part of a very small elite group of about 14 that would travel around and sing at various functions. We dressed in 14th century garb, and we would sing a cappella, and I would carry the tenor harmony of an a cappella group through most of my high school career. After I got out of high school, I sung at almost every church I've ever been in some capacity, sometimes solo, sometimes choir. Almost every church I've been in, I've sung at least one solo. I've even sung as a solo vocalist in churches as a guest that I don't attend. But when I got to Gateway, the talent pool is so deep and the expectations are so high because almost everyone on our platform is a significantly well-known vocal artist. In fact, I know a couple of young ladies who now have albums out. They've sung for me at events that I've hosted and sung alongside me at events that I've spoken at, like the Jen Love Tour with Thelma Wells. Anna Bird is a phenomenal recording artist. And she's beginning to get her name out there and get some albums out there. She's on a regular rotation on the main platform at Gateway. But we've known Anna since she sang worship for our kids when they were in the youth group, when my kids were actually shorter than her. But we've watched her grow up from a youth singer to now a major known recording artist. Okay, when there's that kind of talent in the pool, I don't cut the mustard. I'm not good enough. Do I love to sing? Yes. Do I still sing in smaller arenas? Yes. Can I make the measured cut? Am I good enough at Gateway to be a soloist? No. I don't have the vocal training. I don't have the background. I don't think I have the pipes anymore to compete with somebody like Mark Harris. And that's not a bad thing. That's the way that the world and life delineates the experts from the pretty goods. But you want to be the best in the world at what you do. So ask yourself that honest question. Do my expectations and the expectations of the best in the world at this thing, do they line up? Can I compete at that level? Or am I fooling myself? Perception. All right, final question. Are you envisioning and developing, if you're an entrepreneur, are you envisioning and developing the culture you want to experience in the company as you build it? The NBA has a culture. It has a set of expectations and parameters that if you want to compete at that level, you've got to be able to reach them. So does the NHL. So does the NFL. So does being a doctor and some of the best brain surgeons or heart surgeons, or being an RN in NICU, or every one of those things has its own set of culture, expectations, performance levels, academic achievements. All of them are set out there in front of you, and if you can't achieve them, you can't play at that level. What culture are you building in your business? What expectations are you setting for people who want to come on board? That's a question you've got to ask and answer yourself. Like I said, as a professional coach, I would do myself and you an injustice if I didn't charge you to ask those questions again. There's about 40 more that you would probably want to go through all of them. If you want to, schedule a session and we'll do that. Otherwise, keep watching the videos. I leak a lot of good stuff out here that could help you change your life, if that's what you want to do. I know there are young men watching in Nigeria who are taking copious notes because I've seen them repost a lot of the stuff that I say. I've seen them paraphrase it, meaning they've taken it internally, they synthesized it, they made it fit their marketplace. Nelson Emedigwe does it on a regular basis, and that's awesome. He has a leadership video that I recorded specifically for his team, and he's used it dozens of times, and that's awesome. That's why I do what I do right here. But if you want one-on-one coaching specific to you, if you want me to come and speak and train, whether it's on any of the Maxwell stuff or any of the stuff that I've written at your church or your business, I'm glad to do that. But I don't want to necessarily regurgitate just what you've heard here. If we're going to meet face-to-face, let's take it to the next level. Take some time and go over those questions. You can hit rewind and play it back if you haven't written them down. But share it with somebody whose perceptions could change and change their destiny. It's powerful stuff. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. I will be here. I don't know if you will be or not, but I'll be here. And I will do this video tomorrow on Thanksgiving. And we will give thanks. I might even pray. No, yes, I will. I'm going to pray. I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray for God to continue to bless you even more than he has tomorrow. For now, thank you for being a part of my day. And thank you for letting me be a part of yours. I'm J Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.